When I talk about global warming, we often look at this curve. This is the temperature curve for the last 120 or 30 years. And it's the surface temperature. This is, again, how the surface temperature has changed. And you can see right at the end of this, this is not totally up to date, but right at the end, here's our hiatus, right? This tiny little flat plateau. But what's global warming? Well, global warming is this 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit of increase that we've seen over the last 100 years. And that's actually not stopping. If we look at climate change and global warming in kind of the context of the last 10,000 years, it really brings to light why this is such an important issue, and one we can't really afford to just ignore or blow off. For the last 10,000 years, human beings have enjoyed a very stable climate. Prior to this, people were more or less evolved into what they are today, but we were nomadic. We would not settle in single places, and farming was not really developed until the climate stabilized about 10,000 years ago. And it stabilized into this relatively warm climate. Now, that's not to say nothing was going on in terms of climate. You guys might have heard about the Little Ice Age. The Little Ice Age followed what was called the medieval warm period, which was a little warm period right here. This is surface temperature over the last 20,000 years. And the scale gets a little finer as you go to the right. But 20,000 years ago, we were in the middle of an enormous ice age. Excuse me. And this was a period of time when glaciers covered much of North America. Chicago was buried under 2 miles of ice. The Great Lakes were being formed. And it was an incredibly different climate. And human beings didn't really settle down and begin to develop farming techniques and eventually cities and states and technology and iPhones, right? We didn't get iPhones until 10,000 years of a stable climate. So if we look out into the future, this was the change out of the last ice age into the stable period. It's about 5 degrees Celsius in the global average. And what we're looking at in the next 100 years, relatively short time period compared to the last 10,000, in the next 100 years, we're looking at something between 2 and 5 degrees Celsius of warming. So this is a major change in our climate. We're looking at an incredibly different planet compared to the one we've had and enjoyed for 10,000 years, the one we've built our civilization on. So it's a pretty major change. Now, I'm not saying it's the end of the world, but it's definitely something we're going to have to deal with. So what do you think caused